Hey folks, my name is Mike, and a lot of you know me as a guy who's done a lot with drones, who's done a lot with my kids. What some of you may not know is that I am an iOS engineer for one of the big Silicon Valley companies. And part of my day-to-day job is to interview people on a regular basis because we're always trying to hire. How do you prepare for an interview? But the first thing you should do is you should have a 2-page, at most 3-page if you're super senior, resume. A lot of times I need to know, do you hit certain skills? Do you have certain experiences? And this can be conveyed to me in 2 pages. If I have to sit there for 15 minutes going over your resume to find out if I even want to talk to you, then I probably am not going to talk to you. The next step is typically, at least in the larger companies, is a hiring manager or someone like me who reviews resumes will reach out to a recruiter and say, we want to talk to this person. Here is the number one thing you need to know about that recruiter. They are your best friend. Their job, every metric that they are measured by is how many people they move through the process and how many people are actually hired. Okay? So they are your advocate in the company. Once you've made the recruiter your friend, they're going to set you up with an interview. Could be a phone screen, could be an on-site, could be some kind of hybrid, who knows. What you need to do is leverage that relationship with that recruiter to find out who is going to be recruiting, who is going to be interviewing you. Once you know who is going to be interviewing you, you have got to do your homework. You should be on the interwebs finding out if they have open source projects, finding out what their LinkedIn profile says, finding out if they have a YouTube channel, what they're interested in. You need to know as much as you can about this person so that you know how you can relate to them. I've interviewed countless people throughout the years. One interview sticks out amongst all of them. On my LinkedIn profile, which is public, anybody can go see it, I mention that I like to teach, that I like to not only create and craft, but I like to teach people how to do things. And this one particular interviewee, at the end of the interview, she said something that made her stand out from all of the countless of other people that I've interviewed. She said, you know, I looked at your LinkedIn profile and you said that you like to teach. And I can tell by the way that you explained the questions that I got right and wrong that that is very true, that you do have a love for teaching. And I gotta say, she was a strong candidate to begin with, but that put her through if anything else didn't. If there's any doubt in my mind, her having done the research, knowing about me in advance, was enough for me to say she's serious about this. And you know, it's flattering too, but she's serious about this, and if she's serious about this, she will probably be a very solid hire. The next thing that you need to know is you need to know the interview process. So how does the interview process work? Is it going to be 2 days of round robin lightning interviews, or is it going to be 2 phone screens followed by an on-site with 5 to 7 people? You need to be aware of what the interview process is, and once again, you leverage your relationship with the recruiter to explain to you what that interview process is. And what that can tell you is a few interesting things. If, for instance, there is a phone interview to begin with, you need to know if there's going to be any kind of technical, say, coding or any kind of technical content in that interview, or if it is just a question and answer interview to get to know whether or not you should be brought in for the harder, more technical interviews. On the business side, for instance, if it's a phone interview, should you be expected to have a presentation ready, or is that maybe later on in the process? Knowing the interview process really gives you a leg up because it lets you know what the next steps are and can help you gauge how you're doing in the process. This next one is crucial. You should know something about the team that you're interviewing for. So my product, the product that I've worked on for the past 6-7 years, is publicly available. And I can't tell you the number, and it's not only publicly available, but it's pretty well known. I can't tell you the number of times I've sat down to interview somebody and said, have you ever used my product? And the answer is no. And immediately I start thinking, why do you want to work here? Like, if the product is publicly available, or if there's ways that you can learn about it and you've not taken the time to learn about it, then why should I be interested in you? I mean, is it just a job? Because really, quite honestly, I don't want to hire somebody that it's just a job to. I want to hire somebody that's going to be passionate about this thing that I've spent 7 years of my life working on. If you can find out about the team and the product that the team works on, or the service that they provide, that you should educate yourself on what that product or service is. And if you can show that knowledge during the interview, that will also set you apart as part of the interview process. Now, this next one may seem counterintuitive, but you need to prepare a list of questions that you are going to ask the interviewer. And I cannot tell you how important this is. There's one person that we ended up hiring, and I remember sitting in there thinking, man, I'm doing a tandem interview. It's me and this other engineer. This other engineer is this super smart guy, and we really liked this person that we ended up hiring. He ended up being a great hire. He's a personal friend now, and our relationship goes back 6 years. After I walked out of the interview, I turned around and looked at him and then just shook my head because he had asked me questions the entire time. I had not interviewed him. He had interviewed me. And as the interviewee, you can turn the tables on the interviewer by asking well thought out questions. You should have a list of 5, 10, 15 questions that are ready and prepared sitting in front of you that you want to know the answers to. And if the interview goes short, then you fill the time. Okay? You fill the time. And if there's a possibility during the interview that you can turn the tables on the interviewer and you can start asking them questions, it can expose the knowledge that you really want to show them. And there's nothing more satisfying, really, than coming out of an interview thinking that the person that you were interviewing was really into what you do. And the way that you show that is you ask questions. And finally, and probably this can be a make or break in a way that's interesting. If your interview is remote, if it's a phone screen, or if it's on a Google Hangout or a Skype call, prepare your environment beforehand. Going back to what I was saying about knowing the interview process, if you walk into a phone screen where they're going to have some kind of coding challenge that we're going to share screens, and your environment isn't set up, it's not ready, then you don't make it. If you're going to be on, say, like a Hangout, like a Skype call or a Hangout where there's a visual, try to control the background, okay? Don't like plot down in front of like a discotheque with lights like this, right? Try to plot down in a controlled environment with as little information as possible going on behind you. That can be distracting if you're sitting there interviewing someone and their roommates are walking back and forth in the doorway behind them. So if it is a remote interview, control the environment such that you can get a pretty good conversation done in about an hour's time. It takes a little bit of planning, but it's relatively easy to do. So I hope that you can take these steps, these ideas, and you can make your process better. There's nothing more satisfying than finding the right job fit. And there's nothing more frustrating than going through the entire interview process and getting there and knowing within a couple weeks that you don't want to be part of this company. That is not an experience that you want to have. And if you take the time to work on these 7 things, then you will find out very quickly that the interview process gets easier. You know who you're interviewing with, and they know who they are interviewing. It becomes a much better process on both sides. My name's Mike. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed this. And hit that like button, subscribe, get notifications. I'm going to be putting out a little bit more content like this. Not going to be focused as much on drones and kids. I'm actually going to put out some how to better yourself kind of tips. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you later.